بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونشكره على ما هدانا ونصلي ونسلم على الذي بعث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بثنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصاب الحسين وشهر محرم. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقرن في بيوتكن ولا تبرجن تبرج الجاهلية الأولى. Remain in your homes and do not display yourselves as you used to display in the days of earlier ignorance. Surah Ahzab, verse number 33. The arrival of the month of Moharram and the coming of the new year, the lunar calendar, the start of the lunar calendar, brings with it a mix of reaction. And on the one hand, the majority of the Muslim Ummah, what is called the Sunni community, they consider the arrival of the month of Muharram and the beginning of the new year as a time for celebration. Very rarely within the Sunni community, within the Sunni community understand or they have heard or pay attention to the history involved in month of Muharram and particularly the first 10 days. For various reasons, the community believe that all kinds of heavenly things happen during this month, but particularly during these 10 days. And if you look at some of the ahadith that they have to celebrate the ascension of Prophet Musa to Mount Sinai, the ascension of Isa to heaven, the descent of Prophet Nuh and his ark on the mountain, you name it, everything that we have, they consider that to have happened during these first 10 days. And specifically during the 10th day, they consider that the time of celebration as the culmination of all these, the peak of everything that is happening. I don't want at this stage to say why this is so, but that is a different discussion. When it comes to the Shia community, on the other hand, Muharram brings a mixed emotion. It's considered to be a period of sadness, alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah, remembrance of the tragic events of Karbala and Imam Hussein's uprising. While the Shia community, they share this amount of information, but how they would respond or react to commemorate this differ. There are those that simply focus on commemorating Ashura in the classical manner of recording or mentioning Ashura and the historical events, and focusing on what happened to the Ahlul Bayt and the tragic part of the whole incident, starting from Rajab 60 after Hijrah until the 10th day of Moharram 61 after Hijrah. And others, they find speakers, they find the opportunity to counsel the community on various ethical, moral principles regarding akhlaq, how the imams used to behave, and how it is necessary for us to behave exactly in the same manner, the concept of sabr, patience, etc., etc. Whether we follow the classic approach and simply focus on the tragic narration of the incident, or even we spend some time on counseling the community, there are some fundamental questions that remain to be answered, and rarely we spend time in analyzing them and speaking about them. Number one, within the list of these questions, the role of the imams, who they are, what are their roles within the community, and how they should react to different events that take place, political and otherwise, within their community. There is a good book written by مرحوم شهيد صادر, تعدد الأدوار ووحدة الهدف. الأئمة أهل البيت تعدد الأدوار ووحدة الهدف. That Ahlul Bayt, they have multiplicity of strategy, but singular goal. So if you get a chance, read it. It has been translated into other languages as well, but primarily this was to clarify that why is it that we see, apart from Imam Hussein salawatullah salamu alayhi, most other imams, they really politically were not active. Apart, again, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen as the exception, and 6-month Imam Hassan was the exception. But none of them, nobody else stood up, even when there were too many uprisings around. So that book is useful. And the second question is, even when it comes to two brothers, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, we see a different strategy being used by Imam Hussein and compared to Imam Hassan. What is the reason that one chooses to rise up against the same Bani Umayyah, granted that it is Yazid, it's not Muawiyah, but not say Imam Hassan signs a peace treaty with Muawiyah and adheres to the principle of the peace treaty until he is martyred. Imam Hussein, for 10 years that Muawiyah was alive, remains faithful to that peace treaty. But as soon as Yazid is appointed, a shift takes place. And Imam says he is not prepared to sign anything or make any deal with Yazid. What was so special about Yazid that would not allow Imam Hussein to even accept him, even remain quiet, assuming that Yazid would not have done anything to Imam Hussein? Would Imam Hussein remain silent? Certainly not. And this is the critical point that we really need to pay attention to. There is a hadith by Shaykh Tusi, the grandson of Talha, Ibrahim ibn Muhammad ibn Talha, the two individuals that organized the battle of Jamal, Talha and Zubair, with Aisha, obviously. After the incident of Karbala, as Ahlul Bayt are brought back to Medina, he comes in front of the camel of Imam Zain al-Abidin and in a very condescending manner makes a statement. He says, Ya Ali ibn al-Hussein, who won this battle? You seem to have been totally destroyed. Now you're coming back dejected and coming back to live in Medina. All your males have been killed. So who won the battle? Imam says something which, if we were to really analyze it, answers the critical questions of the difference between Yazid and Muawiyah, and why it was necessary for the Imam to rise against Yazid, even if what we call Idda and Udda they were not ready. The necessary amount of power, tools were not ready. Imam says, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَن تَعْلَمْ مَنْ غَلَبَ. If you really want to know who won this battle, وَدَخَلَ وَقْتُ الصَّلَاةِ فَأَذِّنْ ثُمَّ أَقِمْ ثُمَّ تَعْرِفْ. It's a powerful statement. If you want to understand who won this battle, wait until the prayer times come, say the adhan and say the iqamah, then reflect. Then you understand who won the battle. Which means there is Yazid, there was a fundamental difference in the approach that Yazid had regarding Islam that neither Muawiyah or anybody else that came after Yazid had. Muawiyah paid, at least in public, paid lip service to the principles of Islam. He would go to Friday prayers, organize Friday prayers, and even gave advice to Yazid that in public, stick to the principles of faith. In private, you want to destroy the faith, as Muawiyah. Bani Umayyah, they all wanted to destroy Islam. But at least in public, Muawiyah adhered to the what we call the dhawair, the appearance of the faith. And after Yazid, everybody else that came after, they stuck to it as a consequence of Karbala, that they would not dare to go against the principle of faith. But Yazid, on the other hand, clearly his approach was to destroy Islam and move, this is the opportunity, to move Muslim community back to the Jahiliya mindset that existed before Islam. لعبت هاشم بالملك فلا خبر جاء ولا وحي نزل. It's one of his famous poems that Bani Hashim, all this power kind of struggle, there is no wahy, there is no revelation, there is nothing. It was only a power game. They played their role, now it is ours. During the time of Uthman, when Abu Sufyan was blind, he walks into Uthman's place court and asked, because he was blind at that time, he asked if there is a stranger in the midst of the people who are sitting in the court. Ali was sitting there. They couldn't say there is one, so they said no. His advice to Bani Umayyah, because Uthman was part of Bani Umayyah, now that you have the power and the ball is in your court, don't allow the power to go out and keep passing it from one member of the Bani Umayyah to the other. Bani Hashim should be denied access to power under any circumstance. If you think about the hadith, Shaykh Tusi's hadith regarding the issue of Addan wa Aqim, then you know who won. Then compare that to the comment made by Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi, وَإِذَا بُلِيَتِ الْإِسْلَامِ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ يَزِيدٍ فَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ. Put all three statements together. Yazid's statement, لَعِبَتْ هَاشِمُ بِالْمُلْكِ. Imam Hussein's statement, إِذَا بُلِيَتِ الْإِسْلَامِ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلَ فَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ. And Imam Zain al-Abidin that says, if you want who won the battle, at least, yes, we made the sacrifice, but Islam was preserved. The dhawahir of Islam, deep down, people may have had kufr al-khafi, But Zahir, on appearance, nobody could go against Islam and totally deny and go to the Jahiliya understanding. So Imam Hassan did not rise because Muawiyah paid lip service to the appearance of Islam, and there was no other option, at least so long as this, similar to the period with Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wasalam alayhi and the period of the three Khulafa. He didn't rise. He makes it clear that nifaq existing is better than total destruction of Islam. He said, I found myself between two choices. Either rise and take whatever is mine and risk the destruction of Islam completely. Why? Because a civil war between Muslims would have given the opportunity for the Romans and the Byzantines and everybody else that were in the north to attack and destroy Islam. Or leave what is mine, but at least allow some degree of normality for Muslims to follow Islam. Imam Hassan tried to do the same thing. He would not, and constantly when he is asked, he said, not as long as Muawiyah is alive. Because Muawiyah is paying lip service to Islam, and people, they seeing the Zawahir. Muawiyah goes to Salat al-Jum'ah. Muawiyah offers sacrifice. Muawiyah goes to Hajj. Muawiyah never drinks in public in front of everybody else. Unlike Yazid, that violated all these principles. So there was a fundamental difference between the approach that Yazid had and Muawiyah had, or everybody else that came after. No other Khalifa after Karbala dared to violate, at least in public, the principles of Islam the way Yazid did. Now, the desire to take Muslims back to Jahiliya is one of the critical issues that we really need to understand, because understanding that concept of Jahiliya with the role of the Imams would give us the opportunity to be able to develop a strategy of how do we present Karbala in the context of what we call modern Jahiliya. Jahiliya is not an historical period before Islam, although some people try to understand it or interpret it that way. It is an ideological concept. An ideological concept that could be even present today within the midst of the Muslim community. We will explain it inshallah. When we look at the verses in the Holy Quran, the concept of Jahiliyyah is being presented in the 4 chapters in the Holy Quran. First, Surah Al-Imran. Then Surah Ma'idah, Surah Ahzab, and Surah Fath. And each one of them underscores one fundamental principle of what we call a stable society that Islam wants. The absence of any of these would lead the community to go to Jahiliyyah. Number 1, وَطَائِفَةٌ قَدْ أَهَمَّتْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ ظَنَّ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. In the context of what we call the Battle of Uhud, when people ran away, began to doubt, when they were broken down, began to doubt the whole concept of Islam, revelation, the role of the Prophet, and the role of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the whole process. يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ ظَنَّ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. Harboring untrue thoughts about Allah, similar to those that people used to harbor in the period before Jahiliyyah. أَفَحُكْمُ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ يَبْغُونَ وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حُكْمًا. This is Surah Al-Ma'idah. When you allow the rules and the dictates of non-Islamic rules and dictates to dictate in an Islamic society. The best book regarding this concept of Jahiliyyah or modern Jahiliyyah are 2 books written المعالم في الطريق, I think mile is called, translated as milestone by Sayyid Qutb, and the concept of modern Jahiliyyah by his brother Muhammad Qutb. One is in Arabic, the other one is translated into English. The third one is what I recited early on at the beginning of the conversation, directly to Hafsa and Aisha, that by coming out and behaving in a disrespectful manner, you are going back to the Jahiliyyah period in which you flaunted yourself out of context. So that is the third. And then the people of Asabiyya, this desire or love for groups and racist attitude, etc., etc., which comes in Surah Al-Fatih. These are all various aspects within the Quran that talks about the concept of Jahiliyyah and how critical it is. We are dealing at the moment with the modern Jahiliyyah, with the modern Jahiliyyah, which is much more lethal, much more powerful, much more adapting and at the same time much more harmful to the principle of Islam than the principles of Jahiliyyah that exist. So part of the question that we have, despite I'm not criticizing that we should not talk about the tragic part of Karbala, how do we use Karbala and the principles of Imam Hussein's uprising to deal with what we are facing today? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a verse in the Holy Quran condemns killing of girls and just some other economic and political issue, from 7th of October up to now, close to 40,000 men and women, children and so on have been killed in broad daylight, and close to 100,000 have been injured. What happened to the principles of what we call human right and everything else? Nobody says anything. Not only that, the modern Jahiliyyah, on the one hand, they talk about peace, on the other hand, tons and tons of weapons are sent to the Zionist state to destroy the Palestinian. This is the new Jahiliyyah that we deal. In this context, how do we use Karbala and the principles of Karbala, the universal message of Karbala, to discuss and present Islam and protect ourselves from the reality of the world outside? This is critical and must be addressed. Not just talk about, yes, Imam Hussein left Medina on, say, middle of Rajab and then got to Mecca 10-15 days later, and after that they came to Karbala and the whole thing happened and that's it, and went back to Sham, and Sham back to Medina. Or even an opportunity to counsel the community regarding Salat, Sawm, and Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. Alaykum salam. So these are, in addition to these principles, the challenge that we have when your children come to you and ask, what is the relevance of Ashura in my time? They have heard, they have listened, they have talked about, if you organize discussion at home, they have talked about the whole historical event. But it is not convincing for them. They want more than that. They are challenged by the characteristics of the lifestyle, the modern Jahiliyyah that we have around us. We have not been able to, when it comes to issue of Ashura, we haven't been able to really analyze it and dissect it properly to give them the answer how to deal with the crisis outside. How to deal with the challenges of gender, how to deal with the challenges of faithlessness, how to deal with the challenge within a society that does not believe that there is God, etc., etc. Our children are exposed to this reality, and the occasion of Ashura, when you have so many people coming in, and children, adult, men, women, etc., it is the opportune time to be able to explain, understand what is the reality, the toxic lifestyle that we have to deal with. The adult, to a degree, because of their background from early on, childhood, etc., etc., they have something to strengthen themselves and be able to at least stay afloat. But our children, they have no such possibility. At the age of 12, 13, they begin to drift. And this is why we have what we call the crisis of the adolescence in our community, with everything else that goes around. When my child comes to me and says, "Dad, what is the relevance of Ashura today? What is the relevance of commemorating say, the death of or martyrdom of Imam Ali, or Fatima al-Zahra, or other Imams? What is the benefit for our time? What is the message?" Because they are confronted with the challenge outside, they need answers. And this is the best opportunity to provide those answers to them. Inshallah, I have titled the whole program is Ashura and the challenge of the modern Jahiliya. And every night we will take one component of it and analyze it and see how we establish and we deal with it. Concept of imama is critical. We really have no true concept of what imams are there, what the benefits that we should have from it, what benefit they have for us, what role they have for us, and how they operate within their responsibilities that they have. This is one thing. The concept of Jahiliya is another. The concept of how do we look at universal principles of Ashura and Imam Hussein and his uprising is another issue that, inshallah, once we wrap them up around the end, we will be able to conclude and develop a new strategy for with Ashura. Don't think of yourself. Think of the others, that your children or the younger generation outside, that they don't have the basic background information that you do. They are the one at risk. Books that are translated with the clear audience in mind, our children have no clue how to use them. Why? Because the authors made certain assumptions for the readers. Now those assumptions don't exist. I can't even give my God and his attributes that was written in Farsi, translated into English, many languages. I can't give that book to my child because those basic requirements are not there. You really need to start from zero. And then we expect them to go into Ashura program and immediately react and be part of the crowd as if they have been Shia Muslim for many centuries. I have seen our children walking into Islamic Center during month of Moharram, acting totally strange, wondering what's going on. May Allah help us all that this is really a critical time, and we really need to, all our affairs, Ashura or anything else, but particularly Ashura, because of the fact that this is opportune moment where people come together, and it's during this period that we can spend some times and have a better understanding of the concept of Ashura, as well as Imams, their roles, etc., etc. Please, if you get a chance, أهل البيت تعدد أدوار ووحدة الهدف, for the Arabic speakers, just read it. It's quite a good book. And for the others, the translation is available in English. You can go to alislam.org and you get it. There are other articles about the same thing in Persian language or any other language. May Allah bless all of us, all of you, and grant us the privilege of being able to, during this month of Muharram, to be able to really understand the whole basic fundamentals of the Ashura uprising and practice them in our life, inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.